welcome back to the channel. It's me, Double, and today I want to do hopefully a quick follow-up to what I thought was going to be a hopefully quick video, which was like 13 minutes. If you saw my video last week about controlling the ToneX One with the M-Vave Chocolate, then you probably are interested in how I am reeling this in a little bit, having access to all the different presets that are in the ToneX One is really cool, especially if you can do it wirelessly. As you can see on this knob right here, as I go through, I am changing through all of the presets. This is going to be more about how I have them set up to actually be functional, because using all of the sounds that are in there, having 18, 20 different amplifier sounds, your sound guy's going to be upset with you. And there was even a comment, if you're going to use this live, reel it in a little bit. So let's reel it in some. What have I done here? I'm going to show you how I have the chocolate set up. Right now, I have an instance of 3 amplifiers that I can access by touching either one of these buttons. It's going to be one sound, another amp, then another one. I just kind of did this quickly so that I could show you how I'm going to end up using this, especially once the update arrives and we can have like more effects in here. So I'm going to have amp 1, amp 2, amp 3, and then I'm going to have amp 4. And I've set this up now, instead of, as you saw in the first video, in order for me to access the other amplifier sounds, I had to go up, I had to scroll up, and then I had 4 more that I could select from. So what I'm going to do is set it up in just one bank. I'm going to set it up in a mode that won't even let me kind of scroll up or down or do too many different things. There are a couple of different ways to do this. First, we're going to look at the advanced custom mode. Don't let the advanced word fool you. We're going to assign a couple of things in the app really quickly, really easily, and I'm going to show you how I set this up in the ToneX software in order to be a little more convenient, because I noticed something. The A and B amps, so this is the amplifiers that I have stored on the ToneX One, so I can swap between one amp and another amp by touching this button. That's the way it's set up right now. You can also have it set up to just be an on and off and just go from one to another. And as you can see, in this slot, I have an overdrive. Now, I'm using this as an amplifier. So why do I have an overdrive in that slot? That's because what I wanted to point out was that right here in A and B, in these sections, if you go back and forth, these now do not become 0 or 1 within your Midi command chain of what's here. If you're going to go patch commands or patch change commands, PC commands from here, which is what the ToneX wants, we're going to set this up to be sending patch change commands. And so instead of having a single button press and then access one amp, we're going to be able to hit that amp sound and then press this button again and kind of have a channel switching thing like an A-B. I've have it slightly set up already just to demonstrate how you can do this. So in this section right here, I have all of the amplifiers that I've stored. And what you'll notice is that I have dub, dano, clean, and then one with a scoopy verb. So it's the same amp, Soldano SLO 100, same amp. So I'm basically storing 2 states of the same amp here. What I've done is I've stored as number 1, which is going to be patch change 0. So if you want to go to number 1, PC send from here needs to be 0. I'm going to show you how to set that up. Then we're going to set it up to be patch change 1, which will then go to number 2. Okay, so it's just a single offset. You can probably do that within MIDI Chief, something like that. I'm just going to kind of show you how, without having to get too deep into different software, we're going to do it in one source. And we just have to remember that when we want number 1, it's not going to be A, it's not going to be B. It's going to be this number 1, which is what's stored in our third knob when we're in this mode, right? So as I change through here, I can see that it's now changing. So I have dub, dano, clean, and then a scoopy verb version of it, scoop verby. And then I have Dr. Z, and then I have another Z dub, and then Pastor Chunk a little higher. And then on this last button, instead of going between two different channels, I'm going to go ahead and make that one two different amps. So I'm going to have 1, 2, 3 amps, 4, 5. And then I'm going to have on these first three alternate versions of each one. Now, there's also a little bit of a quirk that I'm going to show you that we just kind of can't get around. But set this up with this in mind, and you should be able to set yourself up with some success on getting this kind of a layout going on. Maybe this inspires you to set yours up a little bit differently. If you want to do this with pedals, you can absolutely do that. But you're going to kind of get at least an idea of how we're going to get to patch number 1 here as opposed to A or B. So what have I done with A and B? I've taken like the last couple that I just am not going to use. Number 15, I'm just not going to be getting to that. OD1, I've stored that down there. I know it's something I'm not going to use, so I put it over here. Same thing here. I just got them out of the way. I wanted to take the amps out of A and B that I actually want to use. I don't want it to be A or B because that's going to really throw the numbers off even more. So I just went ahead and said, look, I'm only going to pick 5 amplifiers that I'm going to go between, 3 of which I want to make channel switching, and then 2 are going to be ones that I can alternate between. And this is a Dumble and that's a Vox. So you can see when I send PC code 6, it's going to go to what I have stored at number 7. When I send PC code 8, it would go to 9. So I want to send PC code 7 to get to 8. Same thing here. PC code 0 is going to give me 1. PC code 1 is going to give me 2. 3 amplifiers, channel switching, and then 2 amplifiers right here. I'm using the Chocolate+. I'm pretty sure you can use the regular Chocolate. So that's what I'm going to set up in the computer right now. So what we're going to do is go over here to the software. We're going to look at advanced custom mode. See how that's clicked right here. We also have custom mode. And with the Chocolate+, you have custom mode 2, which will allow you to do this several times over, which is quite convenient. You can set up many banks. I'm just going to show you how to set up one bank and then access slots 1 through 8, or however you want once you get them stored in here and you start to get MIDI under your finger. But this is a great way to start to do this. So select advanced custom mode, and then we're going to set up each one of our foot switches, A, B, C, and D, which is these accordingly. What we're going to do is come down to the next little menu here, and it says select stampede mode. I love that. So what we're going to do is come to the second one, and we're going to switch between 2 banks, mode, single step. There are other options. Don't even worry about those right now. Just get this under your belt. Switch between 2 banks. What we're going to mean by 2 banks is 2 PC commands. We're going to switch between 2 of them. And how are we going to do that? We're going to have an A bank and a B bank. So that's what this means, switch between 2 banks. If I go here, I only have 1 bank down at the bottom. So I'm only going to be able to access one setting with 1 press. And no matter how many times I press it, it's just going to always pull that one up. What I want to do is have 2. I want to have 2 states for this switch. Channel A and channel B. You could have it, like I said, for this final switch between 2 different amps. And I'll show you how we do that. We're going to add a PC command. You see it defaults to 0 and the MIDI channel is 1. So far, I'm only sending MIDI channel 1 over to ToneX. I haven't really figured out how to change channels, anything like that. I'm just going to leave it like that. MIDI type, we want PC, and then data. For this one, first press is going to be 0. Remember that first press is going to be 0 because that's part of the quirk. Once we do all of this and start messing around, I just want you to remember that we have added 0. And now we're going to come over here and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to double click it and same thing, channel 1, PC. And instead of it being 0 this time, we're going to hit 1. Okay, so the difference here, 0 and 1. So when I push this button, it's going to push 1 time. And then it's going to push another time, basically. And then I push it again, it's going to go back to this one. Push it again and go to that. You got it. Okay, foot switch B. We're going to remove all. I'll show you what I got here. Add. Now this one is going to be same thing. We're going to make this one 2, because this is now going to be patch 3. So this is where we apply our offset. If we want patch 3 from the ToneX, we have to do 2 in the data 1 section. Okay, and then we come over here, double click it to edit it, come back down here. We're going to want this one to be what is patch 4, so we enter 3. Foot switch C, we're going to repeat all of that. Add, double click to edit. So we've done 0, 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to do 4 and 5. Okay, 4, add, double click, 5. Okay. Now we'll come over to foot switch D. Add, edit the first one. So we did 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we want 6 and 7, which will give us patches 7 and 8 accordingly. 6, 7, okay each time. Now our foot switch is set up. Now that I have this all assigned in the Cubesuite app, I can turn on my phone and get the Midi Chief app going and all that kind of stuff. I also have it on this phone. Of course, already I have Cubesuite, so I can do that all on the phone. You can do all that on the phone. So how I like to start this is I like to, since I'm using the Plus just seems to want to see Cubesuite. I can close Cubesuite out once I really get this going, but in order to kind of have Midi Chief instantly recognize the Plus, I've had to just kind of do this. And now it's there and it's connected. So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to open Midi Chief, and I'll show you the other thing I noticed. I don't like to launch Midi Chief after I have done the Cubesuite and just kind of have it running. Then I plug in the USB and I let Midi Chief open just by saying okay to the command prompt that comes up. It says open Midi Chief to handle ToneX One. Okay. I do that. I have very few connection problems. That was some of my troubleshooting that I wanted to pass along. The other part that I wanted to pass along was whatever you have in A and B, they're not going to be patch code, patch change, whatever you want to call it, PC. They're not going to be PC 0 and 1. Okay, so put into A and B a couple of things that you don't like. That's my first tip. And then start with 0. And I repeated the amp again on 1. And then I started with the second amp, repeated it from 2 to 3. PC commands, offset all that by 1 in ToneX. I hope you get it. If you're not quite following along, leave a comment below. I'll do my best to kind of explain it. I'm sure somebody else will too. But now you can see as I'm pushing one button, I'm going from my first amp state to my second amp state. So I had orange as my first amp state. And this is how I figured it out, was I assigned a whole bunch of different colors to the amplifiers. And I started in the rainbow, red, orange, yellow, just started doing that kind of stuff. And I said, oh, okay, well, when I hit this and I'm sending PC 0, I'm not getting A or B. I'm getting the first thing stored. So I have to make sure that I want the first thing stored to not be A or B. And that was like, oh, great. Okay, now I get it. And once I kind of sorted the ToneX One Pedal within the software and set it up this way, I didn't even have to really use ToneX to tweak anymore. I could make these minor changes right here on the pedal, which is one of the great things about it, because you can do reverb, you can then set your gate, you can add that compression. You can do a lot more defined tweaks within ToneX software. Not going to get into all that. The video, again, I'll leave a link at the end. I already left a link earlier in the video for you to watch how this interfaces through Midi Chief. But now you can see I'm going 1 amp and another amp. I can't connect to the ToneX software because now I'm connected here, so I'm going to have to just grab a guitar real quick and show you what I'm doing. But you can see I'm going green and purple, and then back to green. When I come over here, I'm going blue and orange. But I have orange stored as number 1, right? So here's the next final quirk to wrap your head around in this process. When you hit this button, any of the buttons, it's not going to default to the first command. It's going to change this amp from whatever state you were last on. I know it sounds kind of weird, but imagine that we're hitting the button to come back to the amp. And unfortunately, because we can only do so much control over the ToneX, at this point, I've only gotten in this deep, I have to double click it if I want to get to that state. So let me just demonstrate that. I have orange set up to be PC0, which would be ToneX storage slot number 1. And when I hit it, I go to storage slot number 2, which is PC1. Now I come over here, and let's just say I say, oh, oops, I was just over on my slightly modified, my channel B version of that amp here. I click it, and it brings me back to channel A. Because what's it doing? It's just going between the two states. If I now want to go back over to where I just was, and I say, oh, hold on, I wanted to go to this amp. I actually did want, now I'm on that channel of the amp. I have to do this. So this actually is a good thing as far as kind of reeling it in. This is the final step in saying, okay, what am I going to really do with this? Because having too many choices can really make you nuts. Look behind me. I have 42,000 games stored up in there. Deciding what I want to play when I have about 15 minutes to not do something is mind-boggling. And I don't even bother sometimes unless I go, man, I want to play some Miss Pac-Man. And then I just pull up Miss Pac-Man or Pac-Man or something like that. But if I have a lot of time and I want to mess around, yeah, then that's what I do. But to set this up in a usable way that is also taking advantage of this whole little setup, this is how I'm going to do it. Now, maybe this inspires you to do it a little bit differently. Leave me a little comment below if you're like, oh, dude, you know what? I'm going to actually do this. I'm going to have 2 that are channel changing and then 4 amps. And maybe that works out great for you because, Soundgarden has a sound, Journey has a sound, this band has a sound. You'll go nuts trying to define all that, and you'll drive your sound guy crazy trying to do that. What I like to do is really kind of just have a couple of drive pedals and a couple of amp sounds and kind of switch between them and use my volume knob. The ToneX One is great with volume knobs. This little zoom guy, it's kind of okay. I haven't been able to get this all to work with this yet. I'm really hoping to, but I can't even make this thing recognize any MIDI that I've said. I'm being totally stupid with this. So I'll take any tips on that below too, please. But this thing is pretty cool. I can then now, at this point, have different drives engaged. You can't even see the screen because it's all washed out. Let me grab a guitar and you can hear what I'm doing with the ToneX One. I'll demonstrate some of these quirks. Okay, so you can see I'm blinking orange, which is my first amp choice right there, orange. So, and then I'm going to go to blue, and you'll hear the difference in just a sec. The blue one is going to be a lot wetter just to help it stand out, and then it's going to have just a little more gain. So you can hear I'm going between a slightly more reverby sound. And if I wanted to change the gain even more, now I'm here. So now I'm going between gainy and more reverby. And then we're going to come over. And then, so that's, remember, 0 and 1. Translating to 1 and 2 on the ToneX. And you can see here, the software is telling me which I'm hitting, which button I'm hitting. And that was how I realized, oh man, when I go back over to here, I'm not always coming back to 1. I'm coming off of whatever state I was here. So you see how I hit this button again, and it brought me back over to my reverby channel. Go to this amp. And then if I go to version 2 of that amp, same thing, far too much reverb, but now you can hear it. Go back to that version. When I come back over now and change amps, remember, I'm not going to be in the state of that amp that I just was. I'm going to revert. So if I want to go back to that amp the way it was, I have to double press. which is unfortunate. I'd love to be able to also do a long press and then just bring myself back over to that. If you have an advanced switcher, you can absolutely do that. You can make all sorts of things happen to individual buttons. Unfortunately, you can only do so much within a bank when you have the Chocolate, but you know, it's only also 20 some bucks. So the Chocolate Plus, even in advanced control mode, you can set it up so that you can have bank 1 do this setup, and then you hit these buttons in advanced control mode 2, which we can go over in another video if you'd like me to. You can bank up and have this be a completely different layout and go to different patches and go do this completely differently. But you're only ever going to be able to assign it to be long or short button press one way or the other. So I prefer when I'm doing this for it to be an instant reaction. And then if I go over here, you can still hear I'm still running through different sounds. So, and then if I come over to this one, going from a driven kind of dumbly sound over to a Vox. I can use drive pedals then after that. Final thing I notice is if I put my phone into standby, just to kind of save battery life, is that I get just a little latency when I start using the switches. See that? Just a little, you know, turn the phone back on. So you kind of have to keep, maybe if you have a more advanced phone than my $49 track phone from Amazon, you won't have that latency, but this is only so good. I'm going to try to find a proper OTG cable, because the ones that I have aren't doing what I would like, so that I can just power this all the time while also providing power to the ToneX One, because I do feel like the draw of powering the ToneX One off of the phone kills the phone battery really quickly. So I keep it plugged in a lot. Okay, that's it. I'm done talking, and hopefully I've kept it under a certain amount of time, and that you have access now how to set up advanced custom control mode 1 in the M-Vave Chocolate software, Cubesuite, and get it running the ToneX One in a little bit more of a manageable way, even if you don't do it the way that I do it. Hopefully this inspired you to create a method for yourself. If it has, let me know in the comments below, and I appreciate you being here at Double D Guitar. We're almost at 5,000. If you've made it this far, please help me reach the goal of 5,000 subscribers. I will be live streaming and doing a giveaway very soon, very soon. I thought it wouldn't happen until December. You guys have just ramboed that button and just done everything without me even having to ask. So thank you very much. Not a sponsored video, nothing like that. If you've made it this far, please leave a like and consider subscribing. Hopefully, maybe I've earned your subscription today. All right, I'll see you on the next one.